Welcome to Book Banter with me, your host, Diane Burkhart. I hope you will join me every Wednesday as we explore all things to do with, well, books. Let's get on with our show today. Hello, my happy people. Today is August 20th, 2025, and as always, I have got a fantastic author for you. We're going to dive right into this interview today, but don't forget to stick around till the very end because we do have some very special things that we're going to be talking to you about. But for right now, please welcome to Book Banter with Diane Burkhart, Marcia, Peck. Let's get right to your introduction. Can you please tell our listeners who you are and what you do?
I'm Marcia Peck. I'm in Minnesota. I've played cello with the Minnesota Orchestra. I was lucky enough to do that for many, many years. It's been a great life there, but at one point I began to write, probably because of my love of reading. And my debut novel is Water Music, a Cape Cod story.
Now, you just mentioned that you started out first in music. What drew you to the cello as a young musician?
Well, my parents were both pianists. My father was an educator, and my mother was a performer. She was a beautiful pianist. And my father had hoped I would be a singer, but I think because I had long fingers, he chose the cello for me at a young age. I was only, I think, 8 when I began, which is by today's standards kind of late. But yes, he chose the cello for me, and I'm so glad he did. I never would have made a good violinist, and I wasn't drawn to wind instruments, but the cello is just a king of instruments. It has a beautiful tone. People say it's the closest to the human voice, and it often gets solo parts like the violin, but it's also a team player. It plays nicely with friends.
And I love one thing that you mentioned in some of the media information that you sent me about your mother and how she timed her soft-boiled egg.
She was, as I say, a wonderful pianist, and she timed a boiled egg by playing through the Chopin Minute Waltz, and perfect every time they came out.
I love that. Once you got started, you actually got to go study the cello at the Curtis Institute and trained here in Germany before joining the Minnesota Orchestra. How did those experiences shape your career path?
I was so lucky to be accepted to the Curtis Institute in Philadelphia. Very small school. It only had 150 students. The teachers were the best in the world. They still are the best in the world. My teacher, Orlando Cole, was just the most wonderful gentleman. He played a priceless Montagnana cello, and I had extraordinary colleagues among the students. I learned as much from them as I learned from my professors. It was a wonderful place for me, especially because my mother died right after I graduated from high school. And this was such a comforting, warm, responsive, and nurturing school. It was just the right place for me. I practiced like a devil. I practiced 4 hours a day, like everyone else. And when I graduated, I was lucky enough to be invited to go to school at the Schumann Conservatorium in Dusseldorf. I studied there for 2 years with a magnificent Italian cellist, famous in the day for being the most recorded cellist in the world. His name was Antonio Ianigro. And there I had wonderful other students from Japan, from Norway, from Uruguay, England, Germany, of course. So it was competitive in the best sense. It was just what I needed.
I have to tell you, that is one of the things I love about living here in Dusseldorf, Germany, is that this is like the art and fashion center of Germany. We have got fantastic artists and musicians, and there's every fashion design that you can think of down in the Co. I mean, it's just like being surrounded by culture all the time.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I remember being able to go to the opera for something like 2 marks or something that the school provided very discounted student tickets. I could see operas that like Berg's Wozzeck that are rarely done and just were fabulous. That was also a time when we were encouraged to go to big international competitions,
Hmm.
which was another way of developing our skills or our nerves, whatever. So I met wonderful other musicians from cellists from every country, really.
What's one thing that you miss about Germany?
Oh, I miss a good Pilsner, of course. Um, I miss the language because most of my friends were from other countries. German was our was our common language, but nobody ever spoke it really, really well. So,
Yeah.
so I only ever got kind of very conversational. I wished I had studied harder the language.
Yeah, I've been here for 10 years and I'm always saying that my German is still lacking.
Oh gosh.
There's too many articles for everything.
Oh, I agree. I agree. And dative case. And I had a great German teacher in high school. She would drill us on prepositions and things like that. And I can still say aus bei mit nach seit von zu.
Nice. Now, you didn't just happen to start with writing a book. You have been writing quite a bit for all these different kinds of publications. What got you into writing articles and shorter pieces for different publications?
Well, I suppose I was afraid to start a book. And also I had a full-time job, so it made sense to work on shorter pieces. I was lucky enough to have opportunities to write about music for magazines, music magazines. And the orchestra went on when the orchestra would go on tour, I was often invited to do some articles about touring
Oh,
and
nice.
our experience in different countries. It made sense for me to work on something that I could sit down and have the whole 2,000 words or whatever in my head at a time when I had a morning off or an evening off. And so I had been doing that. And of course, you send articles to many, many places and get many, many rejections before some succeed. And then I had the idea to do a short story. I wanted to do a story about Cape Cod because it had been such a center of my childhood, a big love in my childhood. So I started a short story, and then pretty soon it grew. It wanted to become two stories, and then it seemed to become three stories. And I thought I had to face the fact that I had started a novel and I had no idea how to go about it. But I had the luxury of time. There was no rush. I wasn't under a deadline. And it seemed to be a wonderful pursuit to do in conjunction with my music. They're both languages and they have more in common than one would guess. So thank you for asking about my shorter pieces.
So well, you have quite an impressive list, and you've won many awards for your article work. And this book, Water Music, a Cape Cod Story, has an incredible list. I mean, almost an entire paragraph of awards that this single book has won.
Thank goodness. I mean, I'm so lucky that it's received some notice. Again, I love language, and I was very, very pleased that a lot of those awards put it under literary fiction. I did not intend to write any genre fiction. I just wanted to write the best story I could in a musical way. I wanted to draw on my music background for the language of water music.
You have been credited before with saying that performing works by great composers is like finding stories in the music. So, did that experience with music influence your sense of rhythm and phrasing in your own writing?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. In music, there are composers like Shostakovich who have so much to say. Shostakovich gives us a better picture of those Stalin years in the Soviet Union than any book I can imagine. They just tell us so much about what it was like. And I found that the rhythms of language really do mirror the rhythms of music and the how consonants and vowels, I don't know, I don't want to get technical, but very often I would read what I had written aloud. I bet I read Water Music 10 times over the years
Hmm.
aloud before I was satisfied with how the language supported the story.
That's one thing I've found in my own writing that if you read it, you get one impression of it. But if you read it out loud, you get an entirely different impression from the story.
Oh, so true. Absolutely true. I agree completely.
It's incredible how many sentences I have changed because they didn't flow as well when read out loud, but they read fine when I'm just reading it quietly in my head. But somehow just adding that voice to it changes everything.
Oh, that's so true. Water Music just came out as an audiobook, and the reader, Emma Love, does a beautiful job on it. And it's so interesting to me to hear someone else read out loud the words I wrote,
Hmm.
because when I read them in my head, as you say, they read one way, and when I read them out loud, they read another way. And now this is someone else's voice saying those sentences, and it's a little unnerving,
Yeah.
actually.
Well, I'm sure it's like they're putting their own inflection on different places that you may not have. So that gives it an entirely different rhythm.
Yes, rhythm is so important in how a paragraph reads or how it sounds and how it
Mhm.
links with other things. I'm with you 100%.
When you were writing Water Music, did you outline the story first and stick to it diligently, or do you tend to more let the characters lead the way?
Oh, definitely characters driven. I don't outline because I'm not sure what the characters are going to do when I'm writing. I'm working right now on a book about a stolen cello. And once we have a sense of their character and what their dilemmas are and what their history is and what they want and what they need and what they're striving for, that all influences where they're going and how they react to the situations they're in. I'm sure you understand that experience.
Hmm.
So, no, I don't outline. I do sort of have an end in mind, but that end has changed drastically as I was writing Water Music. I had a completely different ending from what I thought it was going to be. The characters just won't won't behave sometimes.
That is true. I'm always telling people it's like I have tried many times to create an outline and stick to it. And usually about a page into the book, the characters in my head are going, that idea is really cute, but no, we're not doing that. It's like, but thanks for
Amen.
trying. What have you found to be most rewarding or even most surprising about your transition from being a symphony musician to being a novelist?
Well, I loved my work in a symphony. I loved being in that family of people who support each other, are making music together, and everyone has to depend on everyone else for the end product, of course. Writing seems to be, well, it is a lonely business. You're in
Mhm.
your writing room, and hopefully, no one is interrupting you. I've been lucky. I've been lucky in Minnesota to have a wonderful writers milieu here. It's a wonderfully supportive place, and I have two writers groups I've been a part of for 20 years, and I've learned tons from them, and I depend on their feedback. They're splendid writers themselves. And my one writers group, it consists of a poet, a spiritual, a memoirist, and one who writes genre kind of romance, and one writes martial arts. And they are the most helpful group you could imagine. Fabulous readers who I go to all the time for advice.
I love that dynamic too, with having people working in so many different areas. You get so many different opinions.
Exactly, exactly. But dueling opinions, and that's helpful too.
Oh, yeah. Because you never know who your reader is going to be, what market they're actually usually reading. They can be coming from any other genre and just decide to give your book a try. And it'll be good to know that there's going to be something in your book that will hit any of those people who are fond of those other genres.
Oh, what a nice way to think of it. Yeah.
We always have a target market that we want to hit, but absolutely anybody has the possibility of picking up your book. And so it's always nice to have those differing opinions so that you know there's going to be something in there for everybody.
That's great to hear. I've attended a few book clubs who are reading water music, and it's really interesting to hear they're coming from very different places, as you say. Some read romance, some read poetry, but you're right. Hopefully, there's something in the book for any reader. I love that. Thank you.
How do you think your experience with being a live music performer compares to having to go out and promote your books in the public?
I find it really hard to promote my book in the public. I'm not a solo cellist per se. 95% of everything I've done in music has been with an orchestra or in chamber music or
Mhm.
playing with small groups. And I love that camaraderie, playing with other people. So it's been very hard to try to uh,
Go it alone?
go it alone, yes. And I don't consider myself a speaker. There's something about being behind that cello and letting the cello speak for me that's very comforting. But I really do want water music to have a chance at reaching a wide readership. It's a labor of love for me.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, you are not alone in not enjoying doing the marketing and
Oh,
promotion part. Pretty much, I would say about 98% of the authors that I talk to, it is the bane of their existence.
oh,
They just want to write, they just want to create their worlds and their stories, and they want it to magically just disseminate across the world without having to talk to people and do interviews and things.
oh, that is comforting. Well, I must say, I'm really enjoying talking with you. I wish we were sitting down in person.
I know we need to do this with like a coffee and maybe some
Yeah.
Käsekuchen.
Yes.
In your book, Water Music, a Cape Cod story, you reveal events like the Andrea Doria sinking that are quite symbolic for your characters. But what led you to choose that specific event?
Oh, the sinking of the Andrea Doria is the main reason that the year the book takes place had to be 1956. There was something about that ocean liner, that young Italian princess. She was only about a year old, I believe, when she sank. She was glamorous, she was extravagant, and she was still a child. And when she was hit by the Stockholm and began to sink, there was a French liner, the Ile de France, who had been plying the ocean for decades. She, I think, was put into service right after World War One. She was 40 miles out to sea when the Andrea Doria was sinking, and she turned back to help with the rescue. And there was something about that just was so meaningful to me when I was working on the relationship between Lily, 11-year-old Lily, and the difficulties she had with her mother and how much she wished to capture her mother's love and attention. And so that rescue was hugely important to me. Plus, I read so many reports of that tragedy, but there was one report that showed that the Ile de France had beamed her searchlight onto the sinking Andrea Doria to help in the rescue. And the whole image of a tether was important to me while I was writing the book. Cape Cod was tethered to the mainland by just two fragile bridges. So that idea of the youngster, the defenseless or the weaker child being protected by this tether just resonated with me. It was an image that guided me as I was writing water music. I'm not sure if I'm saying it very well, but that was a really powerful image for me.
I can understand that. That does come across. Now, I know you've spoken many times in different interviews about your love of Cape Cod, but for somebody like me who has never been there, what do you think makes Cape Cod so poignant for you?
Ah, well, I was a Jersey girl. I grew up in New Jersey. My parents and their families had been New Englanders. So it was in the lore of our house. New England was kind of the home base.
Hmm.
Newport had its wealth, and Long Island had its cachet, its kind of image of cosmopolitan. Cape Cod was a bit of a backwater when we first started going there. And it wasn't until Kennedy became president and he had his house in Hyannis that Cape Cod became sort of more known and showed up on the map.
Hmm.
Kennedy created the National Seashore, and after that, it became more of a vacation spot. But when we used to go, we camped out in a tent and pumped water from a pump. And like Lily's spot, we were on a salt pond where my father collected clams and fished for eels and flounder. And he planted cukes and tomatoes every summer. He was sort of a Renaissance man. He was a musician and a teacher, and he was well educated, but he loved that back to earth life. And so, I don't know, we had few friends when we were there. We were kind of isolated. And it was a time when my sisters and I would camp in the woods overnight and pretend to be pioneers. It was another age.
See, and I love that. That sounds idyllic for me. My husband and I actually just finally broke down and bought a full set of camping gear to go out camping in a tent. My family is very big on camping, but it's always in like an RV with an air conditioner and a microwave.
Yes,
And for me, I
yes,
want a tent. I want to go sleep under the stars. I want to have like the full camping experience, not like taking my house on wheels to the woods.
yes.
If I'm going to do that, I'd rather just rent a cabin somewhere.
Exactly, exactly. My father used to spend summers in Nova Scotia. This was after my mother died. He would spend summers in Nova Scotia on a lake, even when he was in his 60s and 70s,
Hmm.
in a little cabin with no electricity. And he would connect a 20-watt light bulb to his car battery,
Oh, wow.
and that's all he would use. And then he would keep things cool by lowering them in a bucket into the well he used for water. I'm not that I'm not that back to earth, but he loved it. He loved it. Every summer he went.
Well, I can understand that because Nova Scotia is beautiful and the people there are wonderful.
Yes, yes, I agree.
Now, I know that music is central to Lily's emotional journey, but how does her cello lessons shape her life?
Oh, Lily is required to practice an hour a day, even in the summer, even when they are living in a tent. But she has a cello teacher who seemed to be about 100 years old, and he was just a delight. He was a touchstone for her when she's worrying about troubles in her family and in her extended family. She was required to practice by her father, who had the nuts and bolts of practicing, but he didn't have the magic in it. She was required to do certain repetitions and everything, but she never really knew where the music was going until she had this teacher who just made it come alive for her. And he's the one who gives her a sense of possibility in life and that music could be her friend, not just a taskmaster.
Now, how much of you do you think you put into Lily?
Uh, I put a great deal into Lily, honestly. Not everything about Lily is like me,
Mhm.
but I did draw on my own. I did have a teacher like that. And but for him, I don't think I would have been a cellist. Lily is trying to understand what's wrong around her. Her family's really experiencing some difficulties, financial and extended difficulties with her extended family. And Lily gets her strength from music. Lily often gets things wrong when she's trying to figure out what's wrong in her family or how she can help. But through her music, she steadies herself. Let me say that.
Now seems like a really good time to do our 5 quick questions that never turn out to be quick, but I'm too nosy to stop doing it. Are you ready? Question 1. Are there any questions you're tired of answering in interviews like this? And how many of them have I already asked you today?
Oh, gosh. No, no. In fact, some questions I hope I'm getting better at answering over time. But I love the unexpected question, and this was quite unexpected. In fact, you've asked me a lot of questions that I've never heard before, so that's
Oh,
really fun. Yeah,
points for me. All right.
yeah.
Now, is there ever a question that you wish somebody would ask that they haven't asked?
Oh, um, these are hard questions, Diane.
Sorry.
No, you've asked wonderful music questions, and no, I'm good.
That's good. Because it's always good to know those things because there's sometimes that people will go and do a lot of these interviews and it's like, I wish somebody would ask me this. It's like, okay, just tell the interview before you start. It's like, hey, can we work this one in there? And a lot of times they will.
Oh, well, you've given me something to work on for the future. Come up with a question I hope someone will ask me.
Whenever somebody books you to do a podcast, it is perfectly fine for you to give them like a list of like 4 or 5 questions. Say, hey, if it's possible to work these questions into the interview, I would really appreciate it. And almost all of the people will do it.
Oh, good advice. Thank you.
You're welcome. And saying hopefully
Oh,
other people out there who are authors that are looking to do podcasts will take note of that too.
yes,
And plus, that
exactly.
saves us from having to come up with all the questions.
Right, right.
So now, question 2.
Uh-oh.
What is a comfort food you can't resist?
Chocolate.
Ah, good answer.
No doubt. One of my daughters is living in Trinidad and they actually have cacao plants in their yard. And when
Ooh.
they come to visit, they bring their homemade chocolate. Of course, you need about 50 pods to create one little chocolate bar, but it's a labor of love. Yes, chocolate definitely is my Achilles heel.
Yeah, we just finally went to Belgium for the first time this year.
Oh,
And want to guess what we brought back the most of?
yes.
And we still have some. I want to say it's like we did spend a lot of money on chocolate, but we stored most of it away and we're parceling it out.
You know, I totally relate. My sisters and I went to Costa Rica, and that's exactly what I brought back too. And how long does it keep? I want to know because it's so comforting to know there's that little stash that you could access.
Honestly, it's like mine. I keep them till they start turning white.
Excellent, excellent.
And that can usually take like a year, or in this heat, sometimes they melt and then.
Oh, good to know. All right.
Question 3. What is one hobby or interest that you have that has nothing to do with music or writing?
Mushrooms, fungi. I play in a music festival in the Tetons in Wyoming, and I've done that every summer for ages and ages and ages. And that's where I found my love for mushrooms. And I studied hard. I joined the Minnesota Mycological Society and I read lots and lots of books. And in recent years, I realized that really the most edible and choice mushrooms actually are among the easiest to identify. So I've given up trying to identify new mushrooms when I'm not sure what they are
Mhm.
because the payoff isn't that great.
Yeah.
I can stick to morels and boletes and chanterelles and pipe mushrooms, those kinds.
I am so glad that you answered that because I had actually read in some of your information that you were into doing mushroom hunting. I thought, oh, I got to remember to ask her that. And I forgot to put it in my notes. So that's
Oh,
perfect. Now, question 4. Are you an early bird or a night owl when it comes to your creativity?
oh, a night owl. And I think that's just become my biorhythm from years of playing concerts at night.
Hmm.
I'm definitely a napper. I midday is when I shut down. We have morning rehearsals and evening performances, so just become my biorhythm. But I do like to write in the morning, and whenever I've gone to writers' retreats, morning with that cup of coffee is very useful and productive. And I can stay up late with a glass of wine and just work. And I think you get different things at different times of day.
Oh, yeah.
You access different parts of our creativity.
Yeah, and I don't access anything in my brain before 10 a.m. and about 3 cups of coffee. Because it's like this last night, I was up until 4 o'clock this morning
Oh,
working on different projects that I'm trying to implement. And I am not a napper. So
oh,
I just get up at like 8:30, 9:30, start working, even after being up until 4:30 in the morning.
oh boy. Oh
Yeah.
boy.
I
Uh,
never catch up whenever I lose that sleep.
so you don't do Mittagspause.
No, my husband is very big on napping. He believes in that, like taking 20 minutes, maybe a couple of times a
Yes.
day.
Yeah.
And it does so much good for him. And I can't do it. I just lay there and think, I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I should be. It just does not work for me. My brain doesn't shut
Wow.
off like that.
Wow.
So now your last question, I'm asking everyone the same question this season because I'm creating a recommendation list to go in our year-end book buying guide from our authors to our readers. So who is the first author that you always suggest when somebody asks you for a book recommendation?
Ah, Jumba Lahiri. I'm not even sure I'm saying her name right. Henry James comes to mind. You said one author. Do I have to stick to one?
Most people give me at
Uh,
least two or three.
oh yeah,
Nobody can ever do one.
Claire Keegan for someone whose books are really in the public view right now. You know, one that I just love and I've returned to over and over again is Don Marquis. That's not going to be a name anybody recognizes right away, but he was a writer in the 20s and 30s in New York. He considered himself a poet, but couldn't make a living at it. So he did op-ed pieces. He wrote for the newspaper, a column for the newspaper, and he wanted to be writing poetry. So this was a bit of a drudgery for him. So he decided to create this character, Archie, who was the cockroach who lived in the newspaper office and wrote at night when everyone was out of the office, jumping on the typewriter from key to key to create his letters to Don Marquis.
Oh, I
And
love that.
I know. And Don Marquis found that this was a good way to fill up a column because Archie wrote in free verse. So it took few words to create as many inches as the column needed. And Archie was a philosopher and he had a friend, Mehitabel, the alley cat, who had loose morals. And they're just charming, charming books. The Lives and Times of Archie and Mehitabel by Don Marquis. I love that book.
Oh, I have to look that up. That sounds great.
Yeah, yeah.
So now, what is next for you?
Well, I am still playing in my music festival in Wyoming, trying to be in shape and learn. Orchestras seem to have a lot of new music on the concerts these days. So after all these years, I still have new music to learn. So that's the immediate thing. Long range, I'm very close to finishing my second novel. It's a novel about a stolen cello. It's kind of current time, but the cello was made in 1708 in Milan. And so there's a piece of the story that has to do with that time frame. So I've had to do research and in Milan, which was no hardship.
Yeah.
So I'm very close to finishing. I've had some feedback that I want to consider and evaluate, but yeah, that's next. And I've been working on a memoir and I find that really hard.
Yeah.
Do you as well?
Yeah, I'm writing my memoir right now, and I
Oh,
was just talking about to my husband. I said I need to do some more projects that are away from this because I was just finding it so emotionally draining dealing with some of this stuff.
Yes, yes. And to make it all make sense.
Mm.
And to draw lessons and conclusions, which I might have been avoiding for a long time. So yeah, I'm finding it really hard to do that. So I'm glad I have this other project, and I wonder if I'll ever finish the memoir, but there are pieces of it I like. So I don't know. That's life these days.
Well, I actually wrote 7-book serial as Stephen Burkhart. That entire serial was easier to put together than this one memoir that I'm trying to do.
Oh boy. Oh, I'll look that up right away. Stephen Burkhart. Okay.
Hmm. My maiden name was Stevens,
Oh,
so I dropped the last S and created Stephen Burkhart.
of course. Perfect.
And if you see
Perfect.
photos of Stephen Burkhart on my website, that's actually
Uh-huh.
my father when he was my age that I wrote the books.
Oh, oh, I love that.
And he
I love.
loves being the face of Stephen Burkhart. He gets such a kick out of that.
Oh, is he still in Kansas?
Yeah,
Is it?
yeah, both my parents
Huh?
are still in Kansas.
Wow.
Let's remind everybody the book that we have been discussing is your novel Water Music, a Cape Cod Story by Marcia Peck. Now, where can people find you and your book?
My website is marciapeck.com, marciapeck.com. And the book is available, of course, on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And our independent bookstores, if they don't have it in stock, they're happy to order it. It's available on Goodreads. Am I forgetting anything?
An audiobook?
Oh, yes. And the audiobook is available on Amazon, and I haven't looked for it at other places. It's recently been released. Wonderful reader. Emma Love is an actress who does a beautiful job.
We like to make things very easy for our listeners. So, of course, all of your information will be in the description of today's podcast with live links so people can just click and go to find you and all of your work. And it will also be on our website at burkhartbooks.com/podcast. This has been so much fun. You are just delightful.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. You are a delight, Diane.
So there you have it, folks. My interview with the incredible Marcia Peck. Be sure to go check out her website and find out all of the information about her book and all of the future things that she has coming up with her music career and with her writing career as well. You will not regret it. Next week, we're going to be talking to Ching Sun Stubis, who wrote Once Our Lives. This is a true story of 4 generations of Chinese women who struggled to survive war, revolution, and the seemingly unshakable power of an ancient Chinese superstition. She is a wonderful human being, and we had such an amazing conversation, and I'm going to be sharing it all with you next week. And as far as Burkhart Books, we are currently in production of our first book in a romance series called the Haunted Heart series. It's going to be published under D.S. Stevens and will be published, we hope, by the end of the year. If not, we may release it around the time that we do our Love Fest for Season 5. So be sure to get on our mailing list at burkhartbooks.com so that you can find out about all of the great things that are coming up with our podcast, our magazine, and our book publishing. We've got a lot of things coming up in the future, and you do not want to miss out on any of this. If I'm able to keep up with all of this stuff while I'm stuck in bed with a broken leg, I would hope you all can keep up with me and check out everything that I've got coming up for you. And in case you are wondering about what's going on with me, we will be finding out in 2 weeks if I'm going to be stuck on bed rest much longer. But until then, I have my own little studio set up right here in bed now, and I'm able to keep up with all the podcasts and everything else that is going on with Burkhart Books and Book Banter Productions. So follow along because we've got some really interesting things coming, and hopefully it'll all be done on time. I'm really working very hard to try and figure all this stuff out. But now I do have a little bit of a serious note. We do have a close family member who is going through a very hard time right now medically. And if you are the kind of person who prays, sends good healing energy, thinks good thoughts, smudges, uses crystals, whatever it is that you do to show kindness and share good energy with your fellow human being, please send those thoughts and prayers and good vibes for my family. Because right now we could really use it. and I really appreciate anything and everything that you send our way. But for now, I think it's time for us to go ahead and close out today's episode, and for all of you to go forth and be really happy.